back with another one. And Ski's opinion with your gracious and humble host, Ski. So, I ask you guys to like, subscribe, follow, hit that notification bell so you can get alerted to new episodes that we are dropping every week. So, first thing first, I am all the honey, nutties, Playboy bunnies, those want money. The ones I like cause they don't get, let me stop. That's my biggie. Felt the need to do that with my cookie sweat on. So, first story I want to go into today will be Stephen A. Smith. Gotta get on my brother Stephen A. Stephen A. has been called out for not standing on business, I would say, with Serena Williams' husband. Serena Williams' husband comes on the Stephen A. First take. I don't say the Stephen A. Smith show because that's not what it was. But he comes on First Take. I heard he said it, that he made a call to try to make sure that he was going to be here, Stephen A., because he had some questions for you, that you had some advice for him about marriage, and he was confused by that because you have never been married. So Stephen A. right away started contemplating. No, not me. I cannot. No, that's my Stephen A. I did not have no advice about what marriage. Because I've never been married. I can't say nothing about that. I don't know what you mean by that. So everybody paid attention to him. He was backpedaling big time. Like, you had a lot to say about Serena quit walking out there, during the Super Bowl, doing Kendrick Lamar's performance so she could clap back at Drake, right? Her ex. Which I think you kind of made a point with what you were saying. Like, why do you care so much to get back at your ex when he's your ex, right? You're married to a guy who's should be, garnering most of your attention. I don't care how tall the guy is. People are like, he's 6'5" and this and that, and that's why Stephen A. was copping please, because that's a big guy. It's gonna be, man, I don't give a damn. I'm sorry. I mean, like, you're not gonna come and check me on nothing that I said. You can come and we can have a discussion about what I said and get some understanding on what I said, but am I gonna backpedal because you coming in and saying, yeah, I was looking for you? Like, dude, and then he go on Zoom when Stephen A. ain't there. Like, maybe he was busy that day, but all of a sudden you not there the day that this man come in, and he called up there to figure out was you gonna be there. You wasn't there. And then the way you backpedal, when he asked you the question, that's what kind of threw me. And you had the nerve to try to go in on one of our sisters who are putting in the work, I would say, that a lot of men, out here should be putting in. She's saying what a lot of men are scared to say. To our president, other congressmen and other senators and other people who are out here saying foul things, very foul things about our race, our people, and she's standing up to say it. The sister that I'm talking about is Jasmine Crockett. I'm a very big fan of Jasmine Crockett, and for him to say, I'm just gonna go in here, I'm gonna make a sound bite, and I'm gonna snap on Trump, and I'm gonna say this and that, and and then I'm gonna call that work. That ain't work. What are you talking about? It is work. That's her work. And she's speaking on stuff that need to be spoken on, right? And she's fact-checking these people on the stuff that's coming out of their mouth. And you're gonna tell me that she's not working by doing that? You should be trying to work with him. Why? He's not trying to work with her. He's not trying to work with none of us. It's his way or the highway. I mean, he's made that apparently clear to everybody. But you want her to bootlick like you would, right? backpedal like you be doing, backstroke. You know, but but what I'm saying is, man, it's very hypocritical for you to say that, and then for you to go all the way in. You know, he did a Stephen A. voice. Yeah, that ain't work. You know, he doing, but dude, you slam this woman, you know, and I know a lot of brothers, you know, did get in on you about it, you know, and reached out to you about what you said, you know, because it was foul. Instead of tearing the sister down, you're supposed to be lifting her up, you know. You should be there to stand beside her and protect her, because she needs protecting, you know. And she needs to be applauded, you know, not reprimanded for what she's doing. And you, to me, you know, just shows the Uncle Tomness that you are, that you always have been, you know. You don't speak up for the brothers, you know, on the show who got took it out or took it off the show, you know, biasly or wrongly for something that went on in their personal life that couldn't even probably be proven. You know, what I'm talking about is the Shannon Sharp situation. You know, you had no words of encouragement or support for him. But the Molly Quam lady, you know, just stepped down because she was getting lowball. And I'm not saying that you spoke up for, but you didn't speak against either, right? With Shannon Sharp, you like, well, that's on him, and you know, this and that, like you had something not bad to say, I would say, but you didn't have a positive thing to say, and you just have no support for him. You know, you just let the man fall on the sword. And I think you're kind of doing the same thing with her, but you're just super quiet, you know, on her matter. You know, she's been there for 10 years, dude. And y'all was lowballing her. And you should have helped her as well. You know, it would pay her the least that they pay everybody on there. And then want her to continue to keep doing this and then not be able to make money. So she stepped down and stepped away from it. It just shows me that you're not a leader that people should want to follow, right? You the head honcho over there on that show, but you don't protect anybody on that show but you, right? And let's just call a spade a spade. You know, you came in there, snaked and cut in and took Skip out, you know, and got his job. Nobody's, you know, caring for Skip because, you know, it is what it is. He was a better, you know, host on that show than he was. You know, they made the proper choice by choosing you. But you didn't even stand behind him when they pushed him up out of there. You don't have a loyal bone in your body, Stephen A. You know, and you wear your emotions on your sleeve. You put it right out there, you know. So I'm just gonna say, watch your mouth when you're speaking on the system. Start having something more positive to say, other than, you know, all the negativity that you can spew on us as a people. You know, like I have never seen you step up and stand up for any of us, and then people float the idea of maybe someone outside the box, like Stephen A. should run for presidency. No, you shouldn't. You should not run for anything. There's no need for you to do that. And then that's not even your forte. I know you keep saying, "Oh no," but you don't, you know, really ever, you know, disallow or dishelp anybody when they speak it up, that when they put you on the pedestal. So I'm gonna just say, you know, get your boot licking, down talking on your own people. ASS out of here, dude. Like I said, watch what you say about the system. And have a real point to make when you do have something to say. If it's negative, positive, or whatever, you know, have something real to say. Because she do. And what you doing ain't helping us. Care what you talking about. or how you look at it, how you want to say whatever you want to say. It's not helping us, dude. You don't help us, right? Just what it is. So that's all I want to say, to give you a piece of my mind, about that situation, because I felt like what you did was wrong. What you've been doing is wrong. I just didn't care enough before to say anything, but it kind of bothered me to see you slam this sister, instead of, being of the village. If you felt like you had a problem with her, you could have probably called that woman up and said, hey, sister, I see what you're doing, I understand what you're doing, but maybe you want to, scale back on some of your rhetoric if you felt like what she said was wrong, instead of you coming on your show and putting her on blast, And that's the reason why I'm on my show, putting you on blast. For being the Uncle Tom and the bootlicker. That's what you are, Stephen A., the bootlicker. Some boy. But whatever. So, next thing I want to speak on is, so all I know is everybody, I know y'all all heard it, right? My man, Supreme Team's very own Kenneth Supreme McGriff has announced in his documentary, that Mr. Benny Antony, right? That's how he says his name. Benny Antony, has been a confidential informant for 40 years. If you're going off of what Supreme is saying, this means that Benny has been an informant since 1985. You hear me, people? 1985. Benny got locked up for selling to a undercover police officer or a federal agent or whatever it was, right? Red-handedly caught selling a kilo or half a kilo, something like that. He told the story and said he felt it, when he sold it, he knew that it was the cops or whatever. But he dipped out of town and went through all this rigmarole of what went on with that, right? But then when he get caught, because he came back to the city for some reason or another, but you knew you was running, I don't understand it, but whatever. But when he got caught, he went to court or whatever, and he was supposed to be such a wizard, and things happened that he got a sentence of 3 years to life. And Mr. Antony was able to get out within his 3 years. Like, I think the first time he went up for parole, he got out. Like, who gets out on the 3 to life the first time that you go up for parole? People who got 6 years when they're eligible for their first parole, if they got the 3 or something like that, or 2, that they always turn down on that first one. But for you, Mr. Antony, they magically open up those gates for you and let you go. You haven't been back to jail since, right? So they saying, from that point that you started working with these people, but a confidential informant for 40 years, since 1980. Come on, man. Come on. That means he been getting a lot of paper, right? And he was placed in positions that was of importance. He became an executive over there at Columbia, I think, under Corey Rooney. He worked with Def Jam. He's had so many different, titles or whatever in the music business from that point, and it all stems from him being Benny from the Supreme Team, right? But the whole time, it's Supreme saying that you was a confidential informant on the case that got him locked up back in '85, right? That you told something. Way back then, you double-crossed the team, So you got all of your fame, you got all your notoriety off of being a Supreme Team member. But you was telling the entire time. Crazy work. Crazy work, you guys. That Mr. Antony felt like it was too much to go through my time, you know. So I'm gonna, speak with these people and get myself a lesser sentence, which is what a lot of people do. I'm not gonna sit here and act like people don't do this, or this is something that's so surprising or shocking. It's shocking that he's been doing it for 40 years. But shocking that he's telling. No, not me. Not for me. I don't believe that. I'm not shocked by that. Um, I'm shocked that, like I said, how long he's been doing it, and it was kept a secret up until like what 3 to 4 years ago, when they brought it up. He's supposed to be in someone's paperwork, but they could never really pinpoint his name in the paperwork, which kind of made the whole situation seem like it was. Made the whole situation seem like it was fabricated, right? And he was able to fight that off and speak differently to it. What I don't like is everybody harping, on the situation. You got people coming out of works from everywhere. We been knew, so upset he was in such and such pit. I get it. That's my man. I like him. Tell me, give a shout out to my man. What's his name? Something with the something, rip with the something, with the drip or something like. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, I can't remember it. But my man, he's very entertaining and animated in the way he do his show. I like that. But he's saying that, yeah, he's been saying. And then I look back at some of his episodes. He has been speaking on it since it first came out, or people was made aware that Bimmy was a confidential informant, or supposedly was a confidential informant. So I'm gonna say, you got others though. That's probably over. My man Champ from Mav Hopper show. He was on Mav Hopper, my expert parent. Shout out to Mav Hopper. You got some dope stuff dropping again. I'm glad to see you back. Into the swing of things with your show. You got another shop, new setup, whole new look, people, the shop, everything, but the gist of the show is the same, which I'm glad you kept it that way. But yeah, you got Champ, Champ is talking about, whoa, Benny, that he couldn't wait, to get the chance to say something about Benny, because Benny exposed him as being a thief, right? So the whole point is this, right? He's come up with the story, so he's bringing this up on his show as if he want to speak on what Benny did. His whole point of doing this was to try to clear his name now that Benny's being tarnished and kicked in the dirt, right? So see, he was lying on me. I don't know if Benny was lying. Like, they kind of showed proof with the camera footage, and you inside the Bottega with the credit card trying to get money off it, and dude, you I hate to say it, I like saying that, but you's a criminal, what I'm saying? Like, it's not far-fetched that you would steal a credit card and try and get something off it and figure out some type of way you could benefit from it, especially when you was hurt, you was broke at the time. Like you said, math wasn't paying you anything, so you was struggling, and Bemmy grabbed you, but you wanted to kind of throw Bemmy under the bus, saying that Bemmy was saying foul things about Matt. Now, he never really said nothing bad about Matt, even when what Bemmy talking about as far as, he said, Bemmy was saying, like, you didn't get nowhere on my show. You got a little all right, but it ain't do what it was supposed to do for you on my platform. I'm going to give you and that's business. That's not speaking down on math. And it's observation as well. Like, you didn't get nowhere on that show. So he's not saying anything bad or foul about math. He's saying that it didn't work for you the way that it probably should have, or where he see it could have worked to make you bigger, right? So that's not speaking down on math. But he tried to throw that, I think Champ would come back right now if math. I'm sorry, I'd be honest though. But you can tell he's on there, so the whole thing going to what happened with him in Tennessee and then the dude, like while you talking about Bemmy being a snitch, He gonna say, yeah, he lives in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been there. Da, da, da. You just told this man's address. Now, if he is a confidential informant and some old Supreme Team people are looking to get at Bimmy, and you said he's sneaking in and out of New York, he only posts that he was in New York after he leave New York, so there must be some type of danger there. But for you to throw his address out there, I think was kind of foul and kind of snitchy too, right? You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have put that man's home business out there. You shouldn't have put that man living arrangements out there. I don't think I've ever heard Bimmy even come out and say, you know, I live in Tennessee, Nashville, right? Nashville ain't super big. Somebody want to find Bimmy, they know exactly where to go look for him at, right? Bimmy probably one of the bigger stars behind the country singers out there, right? So he's noticeable, you know. Quite sure you could probably go down there and find out where he's at. And you threw that out there, champ, you know, which I think was foul. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The whole thing I was looking into with Bimmy was it still doesn't show anything concrete, because even Supreme saying what he said, he gave no indication of what he told. He just said on that case, yeah, Benny was a part of that case. And that was it. You know, he didn't say anything else. He didn't say, yeah, you know, this is how I know he done it when it was in my paperwork, blah, blah, blah. I only dealt with him on this day. And it says, see, I such and such, had on such and such, was driving such and such, met up with defendant, you know, Kenneth McGriff, and he didn't break anything down. He just said the man snitching that he's been a confidential informant since 1985, which means he's been doing it for 40 years, y'all. 40 shawty. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, so we don't really even know all the way with that. I think some more paperwork need to be pushed out there. I see Benny doing like interviews and jumping on lives and stuff like that, trying to clear his name, which to me kind of shows a little guilt, but that's just my opinion on that. When I see people jumping out there to overly explain how they're not doing something that people claiming that they're doing, may not be 100%, you know, factual on what people said they're doing, but I think it could be some truth there to me, because if it's not true and there's no validity to it, I'm not pushing any energy towards that, right? Learned that from my man Biggie, you know, I love that from him. But we have to be careful on throwing tags out there on people. Like I said, you know, we have to really be careful on what we're doing. Give me 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. Back, you know. But that was pretty much my soliloquy, I would say, on the Benny Anthony situation with him being an informant for 20 years. Next thing I want to speak on, I ain't finna be on here too long today, you guys. Start trying to shorten these episodes a little bit. I'm seeing that they are a little long for the people. I guess, you know, the attention span is not staying there. So I'm going to start trying to tighten these up and come straight to the point of what I'm here to talk about. So I'm doing different segments on here. I got history with ski, which I'm thinking about. I'm I'm thinking about doing a show on that, where I go through different scenarios throughout history and speak it through my lens, right? The opinion and what I got from it. Will be factual. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot of research on this. So we're going to do a segment today, you guys. History whiskey. It's another one. My topic today that I want to go through is not the Pacific, right? But I want to speak on black inventors, right? And I have two black inventions that I want to speak on, right? First thing I want to speak on is, I know everybody probably, I won't say everybody, but a lot of you guys probably heard of Uncle Nearest, right? The whiskey company. Everybody know that Uncle Nearest was the black slave who taught Jack Daniels everything he knew about making whiskey, right? And it took years, right, for this truth to be told, because it was hidden that Nearest was the one who gave him the recipe, who taught him how to, come up with the system on how he made, the famous Jack Daniels whiskey. So that's really Nearest's whiskey, because he taught him and gave him the recipe to make it. But he's a slave, so you don't own anything. And, I don't know if he was owned by Jack Daniels, and I might not go too far into that, but I will say that they took the recipe, slapped their name on it, as they always do, and sold it, mass produced it, right? And never mentioned that, this old black slave man, was the one who was the inventor of the recipe, right? They came up with this whiskey, And it took, I think, a great, 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 great granddaughter, of his to figure it out later, And her story is history within itself, right? She was kind of like the black sheep of the family, was kind of outcast, was a wild child, I would say, to some sort, and she was the one least most likely to figure out, that their family was being cheated out of something for over 100 and some years, almost 200 years, if not 200. But she came back, she figured this out, and she found a letter, I think that Jack Daniels wrote, or someone wrote, saying that Nearest was the one who taught him everything that he knew, and which gave, credence to Nearest, even back then, I think, trying to start his own stills, or starting his own stills, back then, and making whiskey. But it got no validity. I think the family or someone hid it. They buried this information that Jack came up with it himself, right? But they found this letter showing that, he was the one who taught him. And basically, Jack Daniels whiskey should be called Uncle Nearest, but it is what it is. But anyway, he made his own whiskeys, and she found recipes, and she came up with these recipes, and she started a liquor company, a whiskey company called Uncle Nearest Whiskey, which his name was something different. It wasn't Nearest. But she used that, right? And I think they've won awards for like the past 3, 4, 5 years or something like that, like #1 whiskey, in the country, I think, maybe even in the world, But the company scale, I think it's $1 billion company now, But this is something that's been held back from them for years. So we can give props to the sister, for coming up with. I hate that I don't know her name, because I would love to mention it. Should have did a little bit more research on that, but I'm speaking off of what I do know. So that is a part of history, I would say. Um, Black inventors, right? So uh, another person that I want to speak on, or people I want to speak on, because I can't even say a person. There's no name, that's known that they did this. But if you read in your history books, then you know about Eli Whitney, right? And you guys heard about, him supposedly being the inventor of the cotton gin, right? Cotton gin was this box that was made, and you would siphon or filter cotton through it to get all the thorns and hard parts and everything out of it, and it made the system of picking cotton very easy. You could clear a field way quicker than they was able to do it by hand, right? And it was less work, for the slaves than the indentured servants, right? And Eli Whitney, I think, went to a relative's house, cousin, brother, or somebody, uncle, and he's sitting on the porch in the summertime, and he's watching these slaves in the field picking cotton. And he see the slave with this box. And he asked, I think, the cousin or someone, what is that box? What is that box that's in, the slave's hand? What is he doing with that? I see him keep putting cotton or whatever in it. What is that? And then he said, oh, it's a contraption that, came up with. It makes it way easier for them to be able to pick cotton. They can clear probably a whole field, in a day, when that would take a week, before. Cut the time in the process of picking cotton and, streamlining, getting it to the point to where they can make bays of cotton, and ship it out to get it out into, the marketplace way quicker. For y'all who don't know, cotton was like white gold back in those days, The antebellum South was the richest area as far as the economy goes in America. They have more millionaires down there than they did anywhere, in the North or all over this country. All off the back of slaves, all off the back of cotton, right? Because cotton became a commodity that was used for so many different things. Look at what we use cotton for today, right? So Eli Whitney got the smart idea to patent it. He figured out how they made the box, what it was made for, what the process was. He drew up a plan, like a blueprint of the box, how you make it, how you put it together, how this does this and how this does that, and make it easy to pick cotton, right? And streamline the process, right? Where they can make even more money. Well, he patented it as if he invented it. Took the name, gave it the name anyway, the cotton gin or whatever, and his family have ate off of that for centuries. All on the backs of these slave people, who came up with this process to make work easier and life easier on them. In a time where they was being forced into working the fields and giving labor up for free because they was owned by other people. People thought it was all right to own other people, whatever. But so he took the patent, took it, made it his own, We could go through a lot of this, and I'm gonna have to, if I do start this series, I'm gonna do a series or a segment within the series that's on just Black inventors, right? And just to shed light on what we have done as a people in America, right? Throughout history, not Black history, like I said, I'm not. We are history, you guys. None of this stuff would be possible. None of these things that we're doing right now, none of the things that we benefit from, even this internet, They had to go to Africa to get the minerals and the stuff to even build the motherboards to go into the computers for this stuff to even work, right? Without us, none of this stuff is possible, right? And I also have to say this, without them, none of this stuff is possible as well, right? So everybody together working, doing things together is what made history. That's why I said I'm not speaking on Black history. I'm not naming it, Black History with Ski. I named it History with Ski because we're a part of it as well. And if we let them separate what our contributions is to history and slap a label on top of it and say Black history, so the only things that y'all did or contribute to within our society is this part of it because it's Black history. This is the Black history. It used to be Black History Week, and you gave us a month, the shortest month of the year. I think it was a day before it was a week, And then you get the shortest month of the year, you give us February 20th. I don't like that. I think Morgan Freeman said it best. How could you equate all of what we've done in this society or in this world to 1 month, right? How could you pigeonhole my history or my contribution to the world to 1 month? So I don't like that either. I don't like that Black history thing. We are history, and we're a huge part of it. Nice chunk of it. Our history is just not about slavery. Our history goes hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years. Like I said, oldest bones on planet Earth is from Black men. So we didn't just start in 1619 being brought over here from Africa, and some of us already being here, but they don't want to speak on, it's a lot of indigenous Blacks who was already here. When Columbus landed here, we was here. But our history goes beyond that. So that is my time with History with Ski, my people. Hope that tidbit of information is helpful to some of those to understand who you are, what you come from, the type of people that you come from. My next History with Ski will be about Reconstruction, the 7 years after slavery. I'm not going to go too much into that now because it's going to be on my next show. I'm going to do some more research to dig a little bit deeper into what I already know so I can come very knowledgeable and I can explain exactly what I'm trying to with that so I can make you guys understand who we are. Right? We're not slaves. We're not lazy. We're not looking for a handout. We're not begging to be a part of something that we help create and build, right? We're not what they say we are. This is another episode in Ski's Opinion. I want you guys to like, follow, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get alerted to the next episodes. One time. Help me, guys. Follow. I'm on the march to 10,000 subscribers. Still working towards trying to get there. And tune in to these shows. Trying to get more acclimated into the algorithm. Like. In Ski's Opinion. I'm out.